about the statement, the act of being identified as self, or as a self, if you really want to be specific. Yeah, a self. But then you don't see, it's actually better that way. Act of being identified as a self, not the self, or self meaning you, but a self, like one of many selves can happen. Right, so the act of being identified as a self is a complete verb. Yeah, it's not a noun verb. And the verb isn't implying a noun. It's not like, oh, we know who's in the act of, no, it's not saying that. It's saying, it's just a pure verb, the act of being identified as a self. That's the whole verb. There's no noun that's doing it. There's no noun that you're in the act of being identified as. Yeah, there's just the act of being identified as a self. Yeah, so it's a verb in a way. And it's not so, but it can appear to be so. To what so, really? Yeah. It can only appear to be so in time. Time would be the only way it could happen. So in time, which is when you go into the systems that are here, thought system, memories, perceptual interpretation, those systems are in the act of being identified as a self. Yeah? Like it or not. Now they're not saying that. The thought system may, but the perceptions are geared to see things, yeah? And it looks like the seeing of things goes back to a thing, yeah? And then the thought system, obviously, its whole point, its whole job is to reinforce this idea of being the thinker, the doer, the haver, the loser, yes? All that. That's its point. That's its whole point. It has maybe working functions occasionally, but its overall scheme is to reinforce the idea of being the doer, the thinker, the haver, the loser. Yes? So, and then the memories, obviously, picture you as a body. And even the dreams at night, you're usually picturing bodies, yes? Now, a lot of times you're not a body, but there's an assumption that you are looking out, but you're not. Usually you're seeing bodies, but you don't see yourself as a body. Yeah, but you're seeing bodies. Most dreaming has bodies and things. Birds, insects, even the ayahuasca stuff, supposedly they see alien insect-like things. So there's things always dreaming, the ones at night. Yeah. So the memories, the dreaming at night, the thoughts, the perceptions, really are constantly being used to reinforce the act of being identified as a self. And the self derives its condition by a past condition and a future condition. It doesn't start here and then go to the past and future. It's made from the past and the future and is implied here. Yeah? So it's not here and it goes into the past and goes into the future. Yeah? In now, there's an idea of a past it goes into, and then there's an idea of a future it visits. And when it goes, I was, I will be, it arrives at its logic, therefore I am. Yeah, it comes just like that fucking Descartes made the big mistake. I think, therefore I am. He left one word out of it, I think, therefore I am fucked. They forgot to translate that little part. That caused a lot of trouble. So, and this you don't have to understand it. It's just fun. Because it's sort of like, if you saw a rope, let's say, and then you were taking it to be a snake, yeah, and then someone pointed out to you it was a rope, so you would hope that you would never see it as a snake again, but then you could also tease the rope out and see that there's no rope or snake or nothing, yeah? You could see it, because it's like it's all these functionings that get sucked up with attention and interest, and they sort of get twisted into something, an idea, yes? It's just things happening, and then suddenly there's almost like a vortex pulls them up, and then there's an appearance, yeah? And then that appearance sets off all other appearances. Yeah? So it's incredible, really, if you watch it. If you see it, Like if you saw the blueprint of a Toyota Prius, let's say, you saw the blueprint, and it really made a big impression on you. Every time you'd see the Prius, you would see the parts of the Prius, right? You wouldn't see the Prius sometimes. You would just see the parts that make up the Prius. You would see the activities that make up this idea of being someone, yeah? Because they're activities. You would not feel like a you unless there was a lot of thoughts and a lot of other shit going on. There'd be no way, because the brain hadn't developed when you were and even in this dreaming of being a kid, at a point in a kid, there was no kid, there was no mom, it was just on, yeah? And then something developed where there became an identification as an idea, and suddenly life stopped happening and it was started to be interpreted as happening to me, yeah? And then a lot of shoulds and shouldn'ts arise because this shouldn't be happening to me, and that should be happening, yes? And it goes, and it begets more and more and more stuff, yeah? It just spins out, you know? Now all then can be categorized as duality, really. You could pack up the whole thing and see it as duality. You don't have to go into 800 fucking opposites and pairs. You don't. You can make a leap into, oh, those are indications of duality. You know, there's nothing called duality, but you know, it's a frame, so you don't have to go through each piece. It goes, you see it, and then you realize the duality tends to stem from a dualism that seems to be going on right where you are, which is a subject-object sense. Sometimes you're thought about as an object, sometimes you're seen as the thinker, yeah? So sometimes you're the subject of thoughts, and sometimes you're the objects of thoughts. And it happens, it's very fluid all day, yeah? You're not always the subject of all the thoughts. A lot of times, the system turns on itself and starts reviewing you. Quite a lot. Yeah. Critiques it, measures it to other yous, and finds us sometimes quite lacking. Yeah? So as what? As an object. Yes. So you're taken to be an object, and then sometimes you're taken to be the subject. So that dualism is what non-duality is pointing at. Yeah? Because it's beautiful. See, the finger in non-duality pointing at the moon, there's not even a moon, there's just a finger pointing. So there's no moon, there's just finger pointing. That's all there is. You don't have, am I the moon is pointing? No, I gotta get in position. No, you can point anywhere. It's pointing at the same nothing. Yeah? Yeah, so the dualism, you go back there, and now maybe you just run into some idea. Like, I remember our friend Leif. He was with the guy that was with the same guru Nisargadatta was, yeah? I think he's got another name, and then he met him, and the guy said, the first thing you gotta know is this is dreaming. This is just a dreaming. This is dreaming, yes? So, all right, you're gonna arrive there. So when they suggest it, the Course in Miracles goes into great detail. So now, it's not that, so to speak. And you're starting to question, it's not this. And then, how could then you just look at a subjective experience in a new light? Subjective experience is an aspect of dreaming, obviously. Things are happening, yet the observer of what's happening overrides what's observed. Yeah, I would say that's dreaming. We're giving everything the meaning it has, I think, is a pretty good definition of dreaming. Yeah, if you define dreaming as a bunch of activities, that would be pretty close. All right, I'm giving everything all the meaning it has. Yes, yes, yeah. So I'm dreaming. All right, and then they would produce a diagram of your day. All right, and here it goes. You and I are dreaming this dreaming. In the Course it says, you and I are dreaming, the dreamers of the dream, but I don't like nouns, yeah? So you and I are dreaming this dreaming. We forget that we're dreaming. Now that got my interest. How the hell how can that which is dreaming forget it's dreaming? Just doesn't. Yeah? So it doesn't forget it's dreaming. It seems to forget it's dreaming. It's part of the dreaming that the dreaming has forgot that it's dreaming. That's really the basis of it. Yeah, the basis of it, the dreaming has to forget that it's dreaming for the dreaming to happen. Yeah, yeah. So the dreaming seemingly forgets that it's dreaming. How does it do that? Well, obviously it's identified as the dreamt, yes? So the subject, completely separate from objects, becomes identified as the object, still is functioning as subject, but now it's confused because there seems to be an object that has something to do with it, yeah? Where here, when it was dreaming and clear about that, it saw objects as dreamt and subjectivity as dreaming, yes? But now, wait a minute, it doesn't seem to have any distance between the dreamt and the dreaming, so there's a confusion seemingly in time that happens, so the subject now experiences, has the sense of the attributes of subjectivity, but they seem to be mingled with an identification as an object. So now you become what's seen, you as this. You think you're seeing all day. You think you have something to do with it. Yeah. So now the object, animated by the subject, thinks it has a lot to do with the fucking subject. Yeah. So now the dreamt, yeah, because it's got the subjectness moving through, but now the object thinks it's doing it. So this statement is, you and I are the dreaming of the dream, not as the object, as subject, yeah. You and I are the dreaming of the dream. We forget that we're dreaming. How? By identification with the object. Yeah, simple. And then what happens? This is the next, that describes your whole day. Everything you're giving all the meaning to now has the ability to affect you. So everything you're dreaming now has the ability to affect you, not as the subject, yeah, but as the object. But now that the subject's identified as the object, it has the effects of the object, yeah? So when the object gets hurt, it feels like it got hurt, yeah? So it's a trip, it's confusing, yeah? So now, of course, let's say, it would seem, if there was some elevation in the dreamt, it would arrive at, hey, I'd like to get out of this situation, or make it better, yeah? And maybe there's a methodology, or many, that I can find that will allow me to get more finely tuned, or let's say less gross, or less object, and more spirit, more subject. But what happens is where all the warnings of non-duality come into play. Because, all right, now the subject, or the lion, taking itself to be the sheep, wants to become like itself, the subject, which sounds like a good move, but it's saddled with, it's going to try to become like itself as the sheep. Yes? It creates another fucking huge confusion. Yeah. So for a few years there, it feels like it's doing good. Yes? And this is what happens. It feels like it's doing good, and it's getting closer and closer, but then there's some level, some hit where you go, wait a minute, you know? Or you read an article where people who are very much more devoted than you'll ever be, who've been practicing religiously for 30 years, a meditation, get in touch with their meditation teacher and say, nothing's happened, and you're like, fuck, let's pull the emergency brake on the spiritual bus. I don't care if it's my stop or not. I think it's wise to get off. Yeah, so, you know what I mean? So the point is, what would be the move to make? If you've been stumped, there's a huge chessboard they made there. So let's say you've been checkmated. It's in the hall, in the foyer, in the beginning. Let's say you seem to have been checkmated, and there's no move you can make. Yeah. What happens? And for a lot of people, they hear something. They hear about non-duality, or they hear about sudden awakening Zen, not the cultivation wake, yeah? Or Dokchen or something. They hear about something that's quite novel, for the virtuosos of spirituality, it's like a nice little curly cue gets thrown in there, like the dog head moves, because it's not another technique that you've got to become an adept at or whatever. It's about who is it that needs a technique. Like basically, what's the premise all this is moving from? What's the premise that all of everything that's being, averted or desired, aversion, desire, where's that point? Is that really where I am? Am I actually at the starting point that I've assumed to be all these years? What happens if I'm not? Then we gotta sort of call a time out and let new rules be written about the game board, because thought I was playing Risk. Remember that game Risk? You take over the world, but I'm in Monopoly. Yeah, so I need an adjustment. I need to get a new book about the game because it ain't working through thought and effort. I'm not going where I wanted to go. So this is basically about upon having never left is the point. But most people don't start there. They start from the disillusionment of going to the other shore, finally fucking arriving at the other shore upon having never left. So you're like, oh, well, there you go. Of course, nothing was wasted or added or subtracted. It was all how it planned out. And basically, nothing ever really happened anyway. So you didn't waste 13 years or 15 years. You're here now, yeah? And hopefully you can see. You can just see. It's the simplest thing of all, It doesn't have to have a giant moral fucking manifesto or ethics or anything. It's just seeing. Yeah, it's just seeing and allowing what comes after that. Not trying to digest what comes after it, receiving it, because something else will digest it. Some aspect of mind that you may not be privy to, and definitely not as you, will regurgitate it, and it will trickle down, and you'll get some understanding, and things will make sense, and blue will be blue, and red will be red, and it will translate into a traveling light as that Paul that you had so much difficulty with most of your life since you've been 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, you'll find it will finally get the meal it's been looking for years, which is acceptance. It'll just finally, after all seeking acceptance from all the others that were never really satiated, just always find a doubt or a reason why to invalidate the acceptance of another. They'll find suddenly there'll be an acceptance of Paul just as he is, because he ain't. Really. All the terrible things I really thought had tipped a ledger against me in this life that I was going to have to pay for. I think I rushed ahead and paid for them. I really do. I think I played God, and I figured, God, let's sit back, I'll punish myself. I'll get run over twice and fucking tons of other shit. You know what I mean? Let's ease up on it. I'm not that important to be that bad, really. Yeah, so the validity of the message is living it, really. I'm hell-bent on attempting to present it as clearly as possible, and also to follow your little ear canal and see how it connects to the head, the brain, and see the images what I'm saying is producing, because they're not the images a lot of the time I'm attempting to convey. I am not attempting, and the sheep asking questions doesn't motivate me. Yeah, if the lion's there, fucking far out. Yeah, and the lion is there, and I know it's there, and because it's never came or never left. There's no possible way you have ever been what you think you've been. There's no fucking way. Yeah, that power cannot be pulled on that. It's untouchable. It's indescribable. It's non-blemished. It's just pristine and beautiful. Nothing, not one heavy rock you've thrown has ever made a ripple in it. Yeah, it's just ridiculous to think you're that important. Yeah, and so I just felt this has helped. This just cleared up so much stuff when I heard this. And then you go through, you see all the pitfalls. Yeah? You know the problem from the solution. So you're entertaining a solution and then you see the problem. And the problem, in a lot of ways, one of them is the mental state does not want to be. It wants to become and unbecome. It wants to be active in some doing, to have something done or undone. Yeah? It doesn't want to be. Its whole thing of time is made just to do the opposite, is to become and unbecome. And usually you'll be more in the unbecoming stage than the becoming stage. Yeah? You never, just like wanting to know God, all the emphasis is on you, and then maybe you meet God, and then it's on you again. You are now a knower of God. You know, it's just fucking God played such a small role in your search for God. Really, you played the biggest part. How can you escape that irony of the joke? There's no way. Yeah. So it's a simplest attempt to it's not a call to arms, it's a disarming message for me. Yeah, it's just, and then you'll feel time. You'll feel that the mental state is like under the whip all the day. It's like its rider is of time, just whipping it into something all day. I watch it. It's almost as if you're a rock in the water, and so the rock's not moving, and you can see all the water rushing over, and it's like you can see the impulse. Yeah. It's slavery, really. Because then you're attempting, you want to be still, but as an inherent movement, that which is agitated is never going to become still. It's just going to agitate more around stillness. Yeah, like the old Zen saying, can't use activity to produce stillness. You cannot use activity to produce stillness. That would be activity. Yeah. If you're in the fucking bowl, you're stirring. It's just, you can't, the bowl isn't going to be, the soup isn't going to be still. As soon as you put you in, you stir. You move it around. You can't, it's like with the neuroscience, whatever, the observation distorts the observed. That's a fact. Yeah. So the observation being identified as something implies that something to anything it observes. It applies its framing, not open to being framed by that. It always frames everything it comes in contact with. The observation distorts the observed. The observed doesn't do fucking anything with the observation. The observation, which is us, distorts the observed. Yes? So right now, there's a message. The message is being observed. That being observed is distorting the message. My simple story is lion and sheep, just to try to get an image of it, but that's what's happening. So you're not going to convince the sheep not to be a sheep. You can't say, all right, sheep, I bet you can catch it before you're a sheep. No, it's impossible. Just see you're not the sheep. Listen to descriptions of what you think you are, and maybe have a little bit of openness to that it may not be you. Yeah? So it's not calling to arms the sheep. All right, sheep, get on with this fucking thing. You're not a sheep. All right, how do I unsheep myself as a sheep? No, you see you're not the sheep. You don't tell the sheep it's not a sheep. You just explain it just this way. All right, I'm not talking to the first sheep. I'm talking to the second sheep that thinks it's talking to the first sheep. You're not that. And then whatever arises, you're not that. I don't care how many fucking sheep arrives to look at the other sheep to get to you're not that. That's all. Now you want to go through 35 of them, maybe 4 is enough. So there'll be a quantum leap, 100 monkey syndrome, and you realize the sheep is always going to arise in whatever space I am. That's just the way it goes. Yeah. And if it doesn't arise seemingly now, don't worry, it will, and it will say it was there before. So it's going to show up. Just see you're not that. Yeah. What's wishing it's not to show up is that which is not going to show up. The sheep is wishing not to be a sheep. The lion doesn't give a shit if it was a sheep or it could have been a sheep forever. It's not a sheep. It's got very clear about it. It doesn't, it can bar all fucking day. It doesn't care. It's very adaptable lion. Yeah. And every sheep may see it as a sheep. It doesn't matter to it. Yeah. When in Sheepville, do as the sheeps do. Yeah. But does that make you a sheep? No. Because you never were. It's not because somehow you got out of it. You were never that. That's the beautiful message. It's an absolute inherent condition that's untouchable by what comes after it. So you were never that. Yeah. There's nothing that needs to get undone to be that. Yeah. Unless there's requirements. If that's how you're dreaming yourself out of here, all right, I have 12 Herculean tasks to commit and I'd be happy. All right, then you have 12 fucking Herculean things. Is that the truth? No. That's how you're dreaming out of here. Maybe one person has one. Maybe one goes the slacker route. Fuck it, I'll fail all the Herculean, and then he gets it that way. Who cares? But the fact is, if you're going to be dreaming yourself out of this dreaming, no matter what. Yeah. And the dream will get happier. So basically, because you never left, you'll end up always at the same place. It doesn't matter. Some will seemingly take longer. One of the ideas of the Course of Miracles is to save us time. So some will take on. But if you're dreaming yourself out of a dream, whatever you're using, you're going to end up at the same place that you've never left. Yes. So there's no sweat, really. This isn't like relaxation from a long massage. It's before that, yeah? It's a relaxation from some of the strongest mortal coils in there. I mean, some fucking weird thing gets put to rest, and it doesn't seem to come back. Yeah, and now you really, you never get gypped. You're just here. Yeah. The fanciful stories, oh, I really was out to lunch. I was totally someone else. No, you weren't. Never. It's all fucking machinations of the mental state. It can never break through the context. I mean, it can't go anywhere. Yeah. You think that there is going to be better than here. When you arrive there, it's here. You can't fucking get out. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. Because you weren't in. If you succeeded, it would give the relevance to all the shit you believed in. If you did get out, then all the in would have been real. But because the in that you think you're in isn't real, therefore the true success is you never fucking get out. You never get out of what you're not in. Yeah. If you succeeded, it would mean that in was fucking real. And therefore you are real. And that's really in. That's a deep, deep, deep in. That out, you don't want to touch it with a 20-foot pole. No. Yeah. So the freedom is prior, inherently available at all times, right where we are, with no requirement necessary. And it's totally okay not to enjoy it. It's totally fine, because it doesn't change anything. Yeah? I mean, how much, if you're dreaming, let's say you're dreaming last night, and you dreamt a 500-year epic, 500 years of Attila the Hun, the fucking Mongols, fucking Genghis Khan, tons of things. It went on and on and on and on. Yeah? And then the next night, you dreamt, and it was like just one event, like super quick. You saw a lightning flash in the sky. How long did it take you to wake up both days? Did the 500-year-old dream take like a month to get home? It's going to take a while to get out of this. No. There's the 5-second dream. How long? Just out. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It was if the unreality has 500 years in it, it's still unreal. Or if it has just 2 seconds, it's still unreal. And the amount of time to get out of it would be exact same. No time whatsoever. Now, when you're in the 500 years, it's gonna fucking feel like a long time. Yes? But when you wake up, do you feel like you were living for 500 years last night? If you want to feel like that, drink a lot, and then you will feel, but you're not gonna feel it like, oh, I was 500 years. It's just gonna be fucking Paul again. You know? The dream doesn't matter how long it goes or how real it seems. It's defined by its limitation. It's dreaming. Yes? Tons of it takes the exact same amount of time than a little of it. You have the flavor, yes. That's all you need is the flavor of it. The flavor is like, it's like a mouth mint that never goes. It's like a Ricola that lasts forever. It doesn't get smaller and smaller. You don't have to suck on it. It's just giving out, exuding. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm going to ask something, but I don't really mean it. Are there any questions? I was hoping the script was going to be different, but I know we're all playing our roles. Yes, bro.
Thank you. It's you instead of me.
You were talking about the bodies at first. I think you had said before a long time ago about like you can work things through like doing body work and energy healing and stuff.
All right, so right now we're talking about body, time. So we're talking about the dream as the most important thing. All right, so just be clear about that. Now the message tonight isn't about that. This is another topic. So to get relief for the body, I think going through energetic body work is better than therapy in most cases. Mental talking about things. Yes, I do. And I recommend it to someone as a body. Yeah? So I like to have it clearly different. Non-duality, the message of non-duality, I don't want to be helpful at all in non-duality, to tell you the truth. I want you to be left with your own devices, so you'll see they're not your own devices, really. Seriously, I'm serious. Now, we're talking about the body, yes, and that's my observation. It's not like a tablet of Moses. It just said, I like going through the body. I think the body represents more of what you're thinking the mind is entertaining than anything. So, yes.
Yeah. For the longest time, I've been having like trouble sleeping, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and I've got like it feels like this Kundalini stuff in the pelvis, and like restlessness, and So I did this like, I got this massage today, and it was like a lot of pelvis stuff, and it was like, it's like, I don't know, like a lot of, it's like a lot of energy. You know?
Yeah, good.
And,
Acupuncture, herbs, they're all good.
yeah,
Because the body energy, the Shen, is running through the body in Chinese medicine thing. And so they can hold your pulse and they can tell if the Shen is moving, like going out, yeah? And they can work it with acupuncture and herbs to keep the energy circulating and being reconfigured, yes? So it's not like a huge, very uncomfortable event.
so is there like in your terms, like the non-dual terms, like there's like a misrecognition, right? That's at the root of like physical blockage or physical seeming blockage or energetic blockage, right?
Well, physical blockage would be something else, like a fucking hernia pushing on the prostate or something. You're talking about energetic, which is, yeah, it's being expressed through the body, but it's not body.
So like you're talking about like you misrecognize yourself as a sheep, right? When the self misrecognizes itself as a sheep, right? When in fact it's a lion, right?
Yes.
So like there's like this all that I am misrecognizes in like a physical way, or it's different from misrecognizing myself as a self, like or the self.
Well, the self is, the idea of self has to have the body.
So like there's a self.
The body is what gives you a sense of singular independence, being a separate thing. That's the only way it could get any kind of logic fired up around. So the body is of prime importance to the story.
So there's like a selfing. Is there like a bodying, right? Because like I'm getting the massage done, and I like there's this fear that comes up, like my tendons are going to be ripped and like my limbs are going to be torn off or something like that. No, it's so like I'm assuming that I'm a body, that I'm an object that can
For sure. Well, it's not you assuming that you're a body. There's an assuming that you're a body. And then there's a you. See, this is the thing. Another way you can see things is this. Verb comes before noun, let's say. So the verbing is there's an assuming to be a body. And then that produces this idea of there's a you that's assuming to be a body. So then suddenly the you gets presupposed to be before the assuming that there's a body, and now you say it's you that's assuming that there's a body. I've explained this diagram thousands of times. So this is how you catch the thief. To catch the thief is that the thief is the robbery of the verbing to be used to imply a noun. Yeah? So you said it perfectly. You said there's you assuming that you're a body, but no, there's an assuming that you're a body, and then there's a you. So get the horse in front of the car. Yeah. Just we were talking about it today. So the head can say whatever it wants to say, but what it's hoping for is the hook, and to have that what it's saying to be used to imply that there's a someone it's saying about, or the one who's saying it. Yeah, that's it. You can watch it. You know, if you see it a few times, maybe you have seen it enough. I don't know. I mean, there is something called like a 100 monkey thing. There is something where you see it enough, and something triggers that you had no idea of. You know, it just something gets established, and it's sort of like the background's now the foreground, and the foreground's now the background. you know? So sort of like, how did that happen? I have no idea, but it is happening. So there is an observation of it, and you're like, wow, you know. I could never come up with that because I had no fucking idea, seriously, because all my ideas are rooted in this one idea of Paul, and now I've seen it in another way, yeah? Now, if you could have you know, the 12 stages of that would be fucking great, but I don't know, you can't have the 12 stages of it. You know, maybe it doesn't need anything, maybe it needs a little more, who knows, but you'll know, you know. And actually a lot of it has changed already, because I would, you know, I'd hazard a guess of that most of us are traveling lighter, that have been listening to this message. So, and what did I promise? Nothing, but really, if I ever promised anything, it was you'll travel lighter, so fucking, we delivered already. Yeah, yeah, and then a lot more. And then you go, well, who is that? What wants more? Blah, 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 yeah. And then on and on, yeah. If you're having that energy, do what you need to do. There's herbs you can take that will help. You can have acupuncture, fucking, I don't know what would work for you, but I know there's methodologies that will help. Because of course, the mental state sees it as a moral terror. You know, it's like, when I say to people who go through that, I used to say it, I'd say, well, don't act out and don't die and everything will get cool. To me, acting out would get getting loaded. So if you don't pass away, yeah, the ball game will be a little different. Yeah. You're hoping for the game to be called early, but it may not be. You have to go through the full 9 innings. I don't know, but yeah. But that's a whole nother thing, yeah. The non-duality message is simple. You're not that. And then it doesn't mean there's no importance to any of it. That's what, see, what you're not reacts to that. Oh, you're negating it. No, we're not. We're just saying it's not true. It doesn't mean it doesn't have feeling or power or, you know, this and that. It's just not true. That's all. It's not like, not true, motherfucker. It's like, you know, just casually, hey, it's not true. You know? It looks true. It's like the old thing. It waddles like a duck. It's a duck. This is, it waddles like a duck. It quacks like a duck, but it ain't a duck. I mean, what can I say? All logic points to it that it's a duck, but it ain't a duck. But I thought not to be a duck, it would have to stop waddling. No, it's quacking like crazy, waddling like crazy, and it's not a duck. So, kill me. If you don't like the message, it's fine. I mean, look at it. A lot of people don't like it. You know, that's not up to me. My job is to share it. Yeah, so I do. I don't, but I mean, I show up. That's all I have to do. If it was me sharing it, I wouldn't take it. Thank God something comes through. And I know intimately of that, you know. It's beyond this, so to speak. I have no doubt about it. So, yeah. It gives me great confidence when I have nothing to do with it. You know, to show up and see what happens. But to me, I want to just keep teasing it out so you can get to see it, because the seeing of it plays a good role here, because you are the seeing of what you're not, really. So you might as well have that experience, have that sense that you are the seeing of what you're not. Because really, that's probably the most apt description of us here that you can get to, is you and I are the seeing of what we're not, you know. Okay, I'm sorry you can't see it, but you are it, you know, so that's the thing. And so get over it, really, because you can try to make it anything you want, but it's not bending to your fucking will. It's nothing, and it's going to stay nothing. And then when you You know, when you stop fucking trying to manipulate whatever, and just realize you're not that which is manipulating, it's going to happen anyway. But you're not that, you know. So whatever arises, you're not, and it's going to, turn into everything for you. Yeah. So that's it. Eh? Any more questions? No. You have one choice. Come on.
He did it this time, huh? I delegated.
Oh, no, you don't have a question.
You want one?
What?
Do you want one?
No.
I could ask some more.
No. From now on, Dave, I want you to, you're going to submit written questions. I'll get back to you. Like my last time. Messages on Messenger, like 3 years later. Sorry, I'm a little late returning your message. 3 years. They were in 2015. I responded 2018. Have you forgotten the question? Yes. I knew it.
That's not Silicon Valley time, you know.
What?
3 years is not Silicon Valley time.
No?
Like 3 minutes, yeah.
Oh, 3 minutes. Well.
Answer.
All right, well, let's pass the basket and stuff.